Welcome back to another episode of Valuable Coins, where we dive deep into the world of numismatics, uncovering the most valuable and unique coins in the market today. If you're a coin enthusiast, collector, or simply interested in the incredible value of rare coins, you're in the right place. In today's video, we will explore two of the most fascinating and expensive United States coins currently circulating the auction market. First up, in 1943. Abraham Lincoln steel penny without a mint mark is one of the most well-known coins in American history. During World War II, the United States Mint faced a critical shortage of copper, which was needed for ammunition and other wartime supplies. Because of this, in 1943, the Mint switched from using copper to zinc-coated steel to produce the 1-cent coin. This resulted in the famous 1943 steel penny, often called a wartime penny. The absence of a mint mark on your coin means it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which was the primary location for many of these coins. Hundreds of millions of these coins were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. So they are not particularly rare in average circulated condition. However, their unique look, silvery appearance, and historical background make them highly collectible and always interesting to both beginner and experienced coin collectors. Your coin is described as being in fine condition, which in coin grading terms means it has seen regular circulation and exhibits moderate wear on the high points of Lincoln's portrait as well as some flattening on the wheat ears on the reverse. In fine condition, the major details of Lincoln's hair and the lettering remain visible, but the sharpness of the design is reduced. When scratches are present, the value is affected further because collectors typically prefer coins with smooth surfaces and fewer blemishes. A coin with scratches will almost always sell closer to the lower end of its expected price range. In today's market, steel penny from Philadelphia in fine condition with scratches generally trades for around 10 to 25 cents. These coins are quite common because millions were saved as curiosities when people noticed their unusual steel composition. Unlike most other pennies that appear brown or red due to copper, the 1943 steel cent has a distinctive silvery gray look due to the zinc coating. That metallic appearance often led people to set them aside when they were first released, which is why so many still exist today. The combination of high mintage and widespread saving keeps the value low for most circulated examples. Still, there's a lot of historical and collector interest in owning one. Many people enjoy putting together a full set of 1943 steel pennies from the three mints. And the Philadelphia example without a mint mark is an essential part of that set. Fine condition examples with scratches will not usually bring in more than a quarter. But the sentimental and historical value often outweighs the small financial return. In higher grades, such as uncirculated or with original mint luster, values can climb into a few dollars each. Coins that are certified at the highest levels, with no scratches and strong eye appeal, can sell for much more, even reaching into the hundreds in certain pristine cases. However, coins like yours with circulation wear and scratches remain at the modest value level of a few cents up to about a quarter. It is worth noting that collectors must be careful about counterfeits and altered coins. There are cases where people have tried to plate ordinary copper pennies to look like steel, or alter 1943 steel cents to pass as the rare and valuable 1943 copper pennies. The genuine 1943 steel penny, like yours, will be magnetic because of its steel core. This is a quick way to confirm authenticity. The famous and rare 1943 copper penny is a completely different story and can be worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But your coin being steel confirms it is the common version. First up, the 1972 Washington quarter with the Denver Mint mark is a coin that many collectors encounter because it was produced in large numbers for circulation during that year. At first, some people mistakenly assume that this quarter is made of silver, but that is not the case. Quarters struck for circulation after 1964 were no longer made of 90% silver. By 1972, the U.S. Mint was producing all regular quarters in copper-nickel clad, which is a copper core layered with a nickel surface to give it a silvery appearance. Only certain special proof issues made in San Francisco in some years carried any silver content. But those are completely different from the 1972D circulation coin. So while the name silver quarter is often loosely used, the 1972D you have is not a silver coin and does not have any bullion value. Its worth comes entirely from its condition, rarity, and any special variety or error features that might be present in the case of the coin described. It is a 1972 Denver Mint quarter with a large date style in very fine condition. Very fine is a mid-range grade on the coin grading scale, meaning the coin has seen circulation but still shows many details. On the obverse, George Washington's portrait retains much of its detail, though the hair is worn smooth in places and the high points like the cheek and jaw show clear flattening. On the reverse, the eagle is still visible, but the feathers show blending, and wear is evident across the wings and chest. The coin also has scratches, which collectors notice right away. Scratches reduce the coin's eye appeal and lower its desirability to buyers because they are seen as damage. Beyond ordinary circulation, wear? Collectors looking for high-quality examples of this date usually want coins with strong luster and minimal marks, so scratches can hold a piece back from bringing even modest premiums. As for value in today's auction market, Washington quarter in very fine condition with scratches is generally only worth its face value of 25 cents. Maybe a little more if grouped with other quarters in a bulk lot. Large numbers of these coins survive, so supply is not an issue. And demand is limited because collectors can easily find nicer examples. Price guides and realized auction sales show that circulated 1972D quarters typically sell for pocket change, unless they are uncirculated or display a notable error. When uncirculated, especially in mint state 65 or higher, these coins can bring $10 to $20. In the highest gem grades, like MS67, certified examples can sometimes reach into the hundreds at auction. But those are rare coins with exceptional preservation and striking quality. The coin described here, being very fine with scratches, falls far short of that level, so its realistic value is very modest. There is always the possibility that a coin from this year carries a special error or variety. Collectors watch for double die versus off-center strikes, filled mint marks, and planchette errors, all of which can raise the value considerably. Some 1972 quarters with dramatic errors have sold for tens or even hundreds of dollars, depending on severity and demand. If you suspect your coin shows doubling on the date or lettering, or looks unusually off-center, it could be worth having it checked. But without such features, a normal 1972D quarter in very fine condition is not scarce. The scratches mentioned are important to emphasize because they make a coin less appealing to collectors who might otherwise consider it. It is generally advised not to clean or polish coins to try to improve their appearance. Cleaning often leaves hairline marks and removes the natural surface, which lowers the value even further. Collectors prefer original surfaces, even if they are dull or dark, over cleaned or altered pieces. For someone who owns this coin, the best approach is simply to keep it as a historical piece rather than hoping for significant auction. Value. The story behind the coin is still interesting. It represents a time in U.S. coinage when the mint had fully transitioned from silver to clad coinage, and quarters were being produced in massive quantities to meet everyday needs in commerce. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins, and they circulated heavily through the 1970s and 1980s. Your coin has clearly been through many hands, collecting scratches and wear along the way, and now survives as a relic of its era. While it does not bring much money in today's market, it still holds educational and historical value. Next up, the 1937 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is a classic piece of American coinage and a favorite among collectors of early Lincoln cents. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark at the time. And it belongs to the beloved wheat penny series that was issued between 1909 and 1958. The wheat penny gets its name from the two stylized wheat stalks on the reverse side, symbolizing prosperity and the strength of the nation during the early to mid-20th century. For collectors, each year of issue offers a look into both history and artistry. And the 1937 issue is no exception. Your coin is described as being in very fine condition, which means it shows moderate circulation but still retains most of its key details. In coin grading, very fine is a solid mid-level grade. Lincoln's hair and facial details remain clear, though there will be some flattening on the highest points, especially around the cheekbone and jaw. On the reverse, the wheat ears should still show good detail, though some of the finer lines are worn down from circulation. The lettering and date remain sharp and readable, and the overall look of the coin still retains much of its original design appeal. However, you also mentioned scratches, which can bring down the desirability slightly. Scratches are seen as damage, and collectors typically pay less for coins with such marks, since they affect eye appeal in today's market. Philadelphia wheat penny in very fine condition without any damage generally sells in the range of 25 cents to about $1. Because scratches are present, your coin would most likely be valued toward the lower end of that range, closer to around 25 to 50 cents. This is because there are still plenty of 1937 wheat pennies available in similar or even better condition. So buyers will usually gravitate toward examples that are free of obvious marks. Higher grade coins, such as those in extremely fine or uncirculated condition, can sell for a few dollars up to several dozen dollars, especially if they display nice original color. Known as red or red-brown luster, it is important to understand that while the 1937 is not particularly rare in circulated condition, it carries significant historical and collectible value. It was struck during the Great Depression era, a time when every penny held great buying power and was widely used in daily life. For many people, coins like this represent not only an affordable collectible, but also a tangible link to American history. The wheat penny series itself is among the most collected in the world, and nearly every collector starts with common date examples like the 1937, before working toward rarer issues like the 1909 SVDB or the 1914D. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 309 million Lincoln wheat pennies in 1937, making it a large mintage year. Because of that high number, many of these coins survived in circulation and were saved in jars and drawers by people who collected wheat pennies out of habit. This explains why values remain low for most circulated examples even today. The real premium lies in coins that are preserved in uncirculated grades with strong details and attractive luster. In those cases, the value can climb significantly, with some mint state coins graded and certified by professional services selling for over $100 depending on color and strike quality for your coin. The combination of very fine condition and scratches puts it in the modest value category, yet it remains a wonderful collectible. Many collectors enjoy completing a date set of wheat pennies, which means collecting one coin from each year of issue. A 1937 penny is an essential part of that set, and even in circulated condition, it represents the enduring legacy of the Lincoln cent, which has now been in production for well over a century. Next up, the 1965 Washington quarter is a very important date in United States coinage history because it marks the first year that the U.S. Mint officially stopped making circulating quarters in 90% silver and switched permanently to a copper-nickel-clad composition. For many decades prior, quarters contained real silver, and collectors, as well as the general public, sometimes confuse coins from the mid-1960s because the transition happened abruptly. The quarter being described here is a 1965 large date piece without a mint mark, in fine condition with some scratches. It is not silver, even though people often call it that, and its value in today's market is quite modest to understand why. It helps to recall what was happening in American coinage at the time. Rising silver prices in the early 1960s created a problem for the U.S. Mint. People were hoarding silver coins, melting them for their bullion value, and taking them out of circulation faster than they could be replaced. By 1965, the government decided to remove silver entirely from circulating dimes and quarters, and reduce it to 40% and half dollars for a few years. That is why the 1965 quarter, although looking similar to the earlier 90% silver pieces, is actually made of a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper nickel. If you look closely at the edge of any clad quarter, including the 1965, you can usually see the reddish copper stripe of the inner core. Only the proof issues from San Francisco in later years contain silver. And no 1965 quarters from the Denver or Philadelphia mints were struck in silver for circulation. The coin in fine condition shows clear circulation wear. On the obverse, George Washington's hair will be worn down and much of the fine detail has blended. The cheek, jaw, and high points are flat and smooth, while the reverse eagle design also shows loss of feather detail. Fine condition is considered a circulated grade where the date is still readable and the main design elements are visible. But there is obvious wear across the surfaces. The additional presence of scratches lowers the eye appeal even more. Collectors tend to avoid scratched coins unless they are very rare. And since 1965 quarters are not scarce, damage means this coin has little to no premium over face value. In the auction market today, an ordinary 1965 quarter in fine condition generally sells for its face value of 25 cents. Sometimes in bulk, lots of circulated quarters, dealers might pay slightly above face if they are assembling rolls. But it is not considered a collectible condition. The coin is simply too common. Billions of these were struck at Philadelphia without a mint mark, and they still turn up in pocket change to this day. The value increases only when a 1965 quarter is in uncirculated condition, especially in high gem grades like Mint State 66 or higher, where luster, strike quality, and lack of marks make the coin more appealing. At that level, collectors might pay from $10 up to $100 or more for certified examples. But in the circulated and scratched state described, the coin does not command such premiums. There is one interesting exception that sometimes gets mentioned: a few experimental transitional errors of 1965. Quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchettes from 1964. Those rare pieces are worth thousands of dollars when authenticated. They weigh slightly more than a clad quarter, about 6.25 grams instead of 5.67 grams, and they sound different when dropped because of their silver content. However, such errors are extremely rare, and the vast majority of 1965 quarters are normal copper-nickel clad, unless a coin is weighed and verified to be one of those silver planchette errors. It is simply a regular clad coin with no silver content. Next up, the 1944 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is one of the most common coins in the entire wheat cent series. But it remains a favorite among collectors because of its history and the sheer number of people who grew up seeing wheat pennies in circulation. The Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark at the time, struck well over 1 billion of these coins in 1944, making it one of the highest mintages of the series. This was the year following the famous steel cents of 1943, when copper had been diverted to the war effort. By 1944, copper became available again, thanks in part to the recycling of spent shell casings and other wartime brass materials, and the mint returned to striking the Lincoln cent in its traditional bronze composition. The coin you describe is in good condition. which indicates it has been heavily circulated with noticeable wear on both the obverse and reverse. Most details of Lincoln's hair and face are worn down. The wheat stalks on the reverse are flattened, and the fields are often darkened from years of use. You also mention that your coin has a black color shade, which is likely due to oxidation, environmental exposure, or toning over time. Copper-based coins are especially prone to changing color, and many wheat pennies display hues ranging from red to brown to almost black. This does not necessarily make the coin rare, but it does influence how collectors perceive its appearance. Some toned coins are considered attractive and collectible, but in most cases, especially when the coin is in lower circulated grades, black discoloration is viewed as a sign of wear or damage, along with scratches, which further reduce eye appeal. The coin will sit at the lower end of the value range for this date. In today's market, a 1944 Philadelphia wheat penny in good condition is valued between about 20 cents and $1. Because of the scratches and the dark coloration you mention, the coin would likely sell closer to the lower part of that scale, around 20 to 30 cents. Higher grade examples, particularly those in extremely fine condition or uncirculated with original red color, can bring in a few dollars up to $10 or more, depending on quality. Certified examples in top mint state grades, especially with vibrant red luster, have been known to fetch even higher prices from advanced collectors. Still, coins like yours, while not rare or high in dollar value, carry historical significance that makes them meaningful to many hobbyists. The story of the 1944 wheat penny is deeply tied to World War II. In 1943, the nation's need for copper led to the famous steel cent experiment, producing the only regular issue U.S. penny made of steel. By 1944, the mint returned to a copper-based alloy, but much of the copper came from recycled wartime materials. This means that the very coin you hold may contain metal that was once part of a shell casing or other piece of military equipment. That connection gives the 1944 penny a symbolic importance beyond its small monetary value. Even heavily circulated and scratched examples represent a piece of American history and resilience. Collectors often seek out the 1944 penny because it is part of building a complete wheat cent collection, and since so many were made, it is one of the easiest dates to acquire. Its affordability also makes it a great entry-level coin for beginners who want to hold a piece of history without spending much money. The coin is also used in educational settings to teach new collectors how to grade, condition, and how factors like color, scratches, and wear affect value. A coin in good condition with a dark tone and scratches may not be worth much in dollars, but it still teaches important lessons about how coins age and survive through decades of circulation. Next up, the 1973 Washington quarter is another piece from the modern-clad era of U.S. coinage. And like many quarters from this period, it is often misunderstood. Many people look at a quarter from the 1970s and assume it must contain silver, since older pieces from before 1965 were made of 90% silver. However, the truth is that no regular circulation quarters from 1973 were struck in silver. The only silver quarters of that era were special collector versions-proof coins struck in San Francisco for coin set sand. Those were not released for everyday use. The quarter being described here is a 1973 issue without a mint mark, which means it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. It is in good condition with some scratches, and that combination of factors plays a major role in its value in today's auction market. By 1973, the United States Mint had been making copper-nickel-clad quarters for nearly a decade. These coins consist of a pure copper core with outer layers of copper and nickel bonded to it, giving the coin a silvery look even though no precious metal is present. The edge of such a coin often reveals the reddish copper stripe that tells you instantly it is not silver. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 350 million quarters in 1973, making this date extremely common. That large mintage means that most examples, especially circulated ones, do not hold significant collectible value. The piece in question, being in good condition, shows heavy circulation wear. On a grading scale, good means that the design is still identifiable and the date and mint mark are visible. But the high points of Washington's portrait are flat, the hair details are almost gone, and the eagle on the reverse shows little to no feather definition. Scratches on top of that add another layer of damage, which further lowers desirability in the auction market today. A 1973 quarter in good condition with scratches is worth only its face value of 25 cents. Collectors generally do not pay premiums for coins in such worn shape when they are readily available in higher grades. Dealers may include coins like this in bulk rolls or bags of quarters, but individually they do not attract interest. The situation changes when we talk about uncirculated examples. A 1973 quarter that has never been used and retains its original mint luster can sell for a few dollars, and certified mint state 65 coins might bring between $10 and $20. At the very top, in superb gem grades like MS67, prices can climb into the hundreds because finding a flawless example among such a huge mintage is rare. But coins with heavy wear, scratches, and low grade fall far short of those levels. It is worth mentioning that error coins from 1973 can have much higher values. Collectors pay attention to off-center strikes, double strikes, clipped planchettes, or dramatic die cracks. Quarters from this year struck on the wrong planchette, such as a dime or nickel blank, can be very desirable. If your coin appears unusually thin, small, or oddly colored, it may be one of these rare errors. Otherwise, a standard 1973 quarter without a mint mark is extremely common. The scratches noted in the description make it even less likely to hold a premium, since damage of that kind is permanent. One thing to emphasize is that cleaning the coin to remove scratches or dirt is never a good idea. Collectors strongly prefer original surfaces, even if dull, over coins that have been polished or dipped. Cleaning often makes scratches more visible and adds new hairline marks that ruin the look. The best way to keep such a coin is simply to leave it in its natural state. While it may not carry monetary value, it still has educational and historical importance. The 1973 quarter is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, first issued in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By the 1970s, the design had been in use for 4 decades and had become a familiar sight in American pockets. The Philadelphia Mint was producing hundreds of millions of these each year to meet the needs of a growing economy. Your coin is a survivor from that era, showing the wear and scratches of decades of circulation, a silent witness to the many hands it passed through. Next up, Tetha. 1952 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with the D Mint mark is a coin struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most active branches of the United States Mint during the mid-20th century. This coin belongs to the famous wheat cent series, which ran from 1909 to 1958 and is one of the most collected series in American numismatics. The wheat penny features the classic design of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of his birth, and 2 wheat stalks on the reverse, which symbolize prosperity and growth. The 1952D issue is not rare, as the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of them. But even common dates like this carry a certain charm, because of their historical context and the role they played in everyday American life during the early 1950s. The coin you describe is in dirty condition, with a black color shade and scratches. These traits suggest it has been through many years of circulation and has experienced significant environmental exposure. Copper-based coins like the Lincoln cent are especially vulnerable to changes in appearance over time, while freshly minted wheat pennies often had a bright red luster. Circulation and exposure to moisture, dirt, and air cause them to turn brown, dark, or even black. The black color shade you mention is almost certainly the result of oxidation, toning, or grime buildup. This makes the coin less appealing to collectors, as eye appeal is an important factor in determining value. Scratches further reduce desirability because they are considered damage. And a dirty surface means the coin has lost much of the attractive detail collectors prefer. In terms of grade, a coin in dirty and scratched condition with dark coloration would fall into the lower circulated range. For a 1950 2D wheat penny, such a coin typically sells for just a few cents above its face value, often between 5 and 25 cents in today's market. This is because the 1952D is not rare, and collectors have many opportunities to choose nicer examples without such heavy wear and damage. Even in average circulated grades, these coins are easily found in coin shops, online marketplaces, and in the collections of casual hobbyists who saved wheat pennies over the years. Higher grade examples, particularly those with red or red-brown original color and without scratches, can be worth closer to 50 cents or $1. In uncirculated condition, the value may rise to several dollars, with the best mint state certified coins bringing in more from serious collectors. However, even though the monetary value of your specific coin is modest, it still has significance. The early 1950s were a period of post-war growth in the United States. People carried coins like this in their pockets during a time of economic recovery, rising prosperity, and cultural transformation. A 1952 penny could buy a piece of candy, help make up bus fare, or be saved by children in piggy banks. For many collectors, holding such a coin is like holding a piece of that history, regardless of its condition. The scratches and dirt tell their own story, reflecting the years the coin spent in circulation and the countless hands it passed through. The Denver Mint, identified by the D below the date, was responsible for producing a large portion of the nation's coinage. In 1952, it struck hundreds of millions of pennies to meet the demands of commerce. With such a large mintage, many survive today, which is why circulated examples are not particularly valuable. The real challenge for collectors lies in finding coins with high grades, strong details, and attractive coloration. These premium examples are much scarcer because most pennies from that time saw heavy circulation. That is why the market places more value on coins with better eye appeal, while heavily circulated and damaged examples like yours remain in the low value range. Next up, the 1988 Washington quarter with the Denver Mint mark is another coin that often gets called a silver quarter by mistake, but it is not made of silver. By 1988, all regular U.S. quarters struck for circulation were copper-nickel clad. Just like every issue since 1965, these coins have a pure copper core with outer layers of copper and nickel, giving them a silvery appearance but no actual silver content. The only true silver quarters produced in that era were special proof issues made at the San Francisco Mint for collectors, and those were never intended for everyday circulation. A 1988D quarter found in circulation, even if called silver by some, is in fact clad. The coin being described here is in dirty condition with some scratches. Dirt, toning, and grime on the surface are common for coins that have been in circulation for decades. Sometimes this darkened look comes from exposure to air, moisture, or handling. Scratches, however, are more serious because they represent permanent damage to the coin's surface. For collectors, scratches greatly reduce eye appeal and desirability, especially on modern coins that are otherwise extremely common. Cleaning the coin to try to improve its appearance is not recommended, because cleaning usually adds hairline scratches and unnatural shine, which lowers value even further. Collectors strongly prefer coins with original surfaces, even if they are dull or dirty in terms of grading. This coin would likely fall somewhere in the lower circulated range. The Denver Mint produced well over 500 million quarters in 1988, so they are plentiful and easy to find. A circulated example with scratches and dirt would grade somewhere between good and fine, depending on wear. But because of the scratches, collectors would not assign it a premium. The obverse would show Washington's portrait with flattened details on the hair, cheek, and jaw, and the reverse eagle would show smooth wings and chest feathers. With circulation, wear, and damage, this coin is far from collector grade. When looking at the auction market today, 1988D quarters in circulated condition are generally worth only their face value of 25 cents. Dealers and collectors do not pay premiums for such coins because there is an abundant supply of better preserved examples. Even in higher grades, the values are modest. An uncirculated mint state 65 coin might bring between $10 and $15. If certified by a grading service like PCGS or NGC, in superb gem grades such as MS67. Prices can rise into the hundreds because they are much scarcer in flawless condition. However, the coin described here, being dirty and scratched, is nowhere near those grades and therefore does not carry significant auction value. The only real exception for a 1988D quarter would be if it were an error or variety. Collectors pay close attention to doubled dies, off-center strikes, and wrong planchette errors. A dramatic off-center strike or a quarter struck on a dime planchette could be worth many times face value, sometimes hundreds of dollars depending on severity and eye appeal. But those are rare and easily recognizable. Unless your coin shows such unusual characteristics, it remains a standard circulation strike with ordinary wear. The story behind the coin, however, is still interesting. By 1988, the Washington quarter design had already been in use for more than 50 years. Since it was first introduced in 1932, the Denver Mint was producing massive numbers of coins for commerce. And these quarters passed through countless hands in stores, vending machines, and everyday transactions. The scratches and dirt on your coin tell the story of decades of circulation. While it might not be worth more than 25 cents in the market, it has lived a long life as part of American daily commerce. Next up, the 1927 Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny with a D Mint mark is a coin produced at the Denver Mint, one of the three main mints striking cents during that era. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series began in 1909 and continued through 1958, making it one of the longest-running and most collected coin series in American history. The obverse features the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, while the reverse displays the classic two wheat stalks encircling the words 1 cent and United States of America. The wheat stalks symbolize prosperity and productivity, fitting for a coin that circulated widely during a period of great economic change in the United States. By 1927, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for nearly 2 decades, and the Denver Mint contributed millions of coins to meet the demand for small change across the country. Your coin, dated 1927 and bearing the D Mint mark below the date, indicates it was struck in Denver. The Denver Mint produced just over 27 million of these coins, which is not a particularly small mintage, but also not as large as some other years. Many of these coins entered circulation and saw decades of use, which is why surviving examples in higher grades are scarcer and more valuable. The coin you describe is in good condition, meaning it has significant wear. In coin grading, good is one of the lower circulated grades. Most of the details on Lincoln's hair and face will be worn smooth. The lettering may be faint in places, and the wheat stalks on the reverse will appear flat and lacking the fine lines they once displayed. The scratches you mention also affect the value negatively, since collectors tend to prefer coins without damage beyond normal wear. In today's market, Lincoln Wheat Penny in good condition with scratches would generally sell for around $2 to $7. This range reflects both the common nature of the date in circulated grades and the effect of damage on its desirability. If the coin had less wear and was in very fine or extra fine condition, The value could rise into the range of $10 to $25. In uncirculated mint state with strong original color and strike, the same coin could command well over $100 from collectors. But in the grade you describe, with wear and scratches, its market value is modest. Nevertheless, even at a value of only a few dollars. The 19 to 7D wheat penny is an appealing collectible. It represents a period of American history leading into the Great Depression, a time when every penny mattered. In 1927, the United States was experiencing the final years of the Roaring Twenties, with economic expansion and cultural change. A penny then had significant purchasing power compared to today, enough to buy small candies, newspapers, or contribute meaningfully toward other goods. Coins like this traveled widely in commerce and were a part of everyday life for millions of Americans. Collectors appreciate the 1927D, not only for its history but also because it comes from the Denver Mint, which produced fewer cents overall compared to the Philadelphia Mint. The absence of a mint mark indicates Philadelphia, while the D below the date shows its Denver origin. This makes it essential for anyone trying to assemble a complete set of Lincoln wheat pennies by date and mint mark, while the coin is not rare in lower circulated grades. Finding one without heavy wear or scratches is more challenging, which explains why higher grade examples carry premiums. The scratches and blackened surfaces that you mention suggest the coin has been stored or handled in conditions that accelerated its wear. Copper coins, like the Lincoln cent, are prone to oxidation and discoloration, often turning brown or even darker shades when exposed to air, dirt, or moisture over long periods. Collectors sometimes view this as undesirable, particularly if the surface is uneven or if the damage obscures details. For coins in higher value ranges, professional conservation may help. But for a coin in good condition with scratches, the cost of cleaning or grading would outweigh its market value. Even so, this coin holds an important place in the series and is often treasured for its age and authenticity. Many collectors enjoy having lower-grade examples as placeholders in their sets until they can afford to upgrade to finer examples. For beginning collectors especially, a 1927D penny, even in good condition, is an exciting find, as it represents a coin that has circulated for nearly a century and carries with it the weight of history. Next up, the 1982 Washington quarter with the Philadelphia Mint mark is another piece that is often mistaken for being made of silver. But like all regular quarters struck after 1964, it is actually copper-nickel clad. That means the coin has a pure copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of copper and nickel, which gives it the silvery color that people sometimes confuse for silver. The only Washington quarters from the early 1980s that contained any silver were special proof coins struck in San Francisco for collectors, and even those were not part of everyday circulation. A 1982p quarter found in circulation is therefore not silver, but clad with no precious metal value. The coin described is in very fine condition with some scratches. Very fine is a mid-grade level on the coin grading scale. It means that the main details of George Washington's portrait are still visible. And you can see definition in the hair, the outline of the cheek, and the jawline. The reverse eagle design also retains some feather detail, though the high points are worn and flattened. Circulation marks are noticeable, and the scratches further detract from its appeal to collectors. Scratches are considered damage, and for a coin like this, which is not rare, damage is a significant drawback, while dirt or discoloration can sometimes be acceptable as honest wear. Scratches reduce collector interest. One unique aspect of 1982 and 1983 quarters is that the U.S. Mint did not issue official mint sets in those years. That means that uncirculated examples were not preserved in the same quantities as other years, making high-grade 1982p quarters scarcer than one might expect from their original mintage numbers. This has given them a little more appeal in the market when they appear in true mint state condition. For example, certified mint state 65 coins might bring $10 to $20, and superb gems graded MS67 or higher can sell for hundreds at auction. Since those are genuinely hard to find, however, a circulated 1982p in very fine condition with scratches is very common and not worth much above face value. In today's auction market, such a piece typically sells for its 25-cent face value. Perhaps a little more if included in a bulk lot of circulated quarters. Collectors who seek 1982 quarters generally want high-end, well-preserved pieces, not worn examples with damage. Your coin, while a genuine piece of history, simply does not carry monetary value in its current state. There are some varieties and errors for the 1982 quarters that can be worth checking for. Collectors look for doubled dies on the obverse or reverse off-center strikes or other minting mistakes. Any coin that appears unusually thick, thin, misaligned, or shows doubling in the lettering or date might be worth a closer look. In rare cases, these can sell for tens or even hundreds of dollars depending on severity and demand. But absent such an error, a normal 1982p with circulation wear and scratches remains an ordinary coin. The scratches themselves tell part of the coin's story. Over more than 40 years in circulation, the coin has been passed through countless hands, used in thousands of transactions, jostled in pockets and cash registers, and collided with other coins. Each scratch and worn surface is a mark of its journey through American commerce. While these marks reduce collector value, they also speak to the life of the coin as money, something most modern coins will never experience to the same degree given the rise of digital payments. Historically, the 1982 quarter is part of a series that had been running continuously since 1932. By this time, the Washington quarter design was still in use, though many collectors were beginning to call for changes. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters that year, and while most have worn down like the one described here, a few pristine examples remain highly prized. Your coin, however, belongs to the everyday side of the series, representing the common circulation strikes that served the public.